Welcome to the Backyard Bouquet podcast, where stories bloom from local flower fields and home gardens. I'm your host, Jennifer Galizia of the Flowering Farmhouse. I'm a backyard gardener turned flower farmer located in Hood River, Oregon. Join us for heartfelt journeys shared by flower farmers and backyard gardeners. Each episode is like a vibrant garden, cultivating wisdom and joy through flowers. From growing your own backyard garden to supporting your local flower farmer, the Backyard Bouquet is your fertile ground for heartwarming tales and expert cut flower growing advice. All right, flower friends, grab your gardening gloves, garden snips, or your favorite vase because it's time to let your backyard bloom. Hey, flower friend. If you found yourself with more flowers than you knew what to do with this past season, and now you realize you need to figure out how to sell more of them next season, I've got something just for you. It's called the Sell Your Flowers Summit, a free online event designed especially for beginner flower farmers in their first 5 years of farming. And it's happening November 20th through 22nd, 2025, and it's completely free. During the summit, you'll learn how to price your bouquets with confidence, find customers who truly want what you grow, and start feeling proud, not awkward, about selling your flowers. This isn't about slick marketing or growing acres of blooms. It's about building the confidence and clarity you need to share your flowers with the world. And I have to say, I've personally worked with Lenny Larkin, the host of the Sell Your Flowers Summit. Lenny recently coached me as we transitioned to our new farm and scaled our business. She truly understands the challenges of being a flower farmer and makes the business side feel so simple and doable. So if you're ready to stop second guessing yourself and start selling your flowers with confidence, head to episode 76 of the Backyard Bouquet podcast and grab your free ticket to the summit through the link in those show notes. Hey, flower friends, welcome back to the Backyard Bouquet podcast, where we dig into the stories, creativity, and the heart behind flower farming and floral design. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by someone whose work you've likely admired on Instagram or in the pages of bridal magazines, and that is none other than Julio Freitas, the creative force behind the Flower Hat in Bozeman, Montana. What began as a creative outlet has blossomed into a full-scale floral design studio and flower farm known for its lush, garden-inspired arrangements and those iconic armful shots of blooms that have become Julio's signature. From designing with high-profile weddings to growing some of the most sought-after dahlias and specialty blooms, Julio has built a brand that celebrates both artistry and authenticity. In our conversation today, we're talking about the evolution of the flower hat, how Julio's love for flowers led him from hotel management to farming in Montana, what it takes to grow premium blooms in a short season climate, and how he's built such a strong online community through education, beauty, and joy. Whether you're a floral designer, flower farmer, or simply someone who loves a beautiful bouquet, I think you're going to walk away inspired by Julio's story and the way he's turned passion into purpose. All right, welcome, Julio. I'm so excited to finally have you here on the podcast.
Hi, Jen. Oh my God, I'm smiling ear to ear. What an intro. I think we're done. I don't have anything else to add.
That's it. No, I was drawn to your story years ago. We were chatting a little bit before we hit the record button. I didn't mention this part. I was telling you how I have heard you on other podcasts throughout the years, but this is our first time actually meeting. But what initially drew me to you on the first time I heard you on a podcast was that you worked in hotel management, which is what I was doing. I was a
Yes.
photographer and working in hotel management when I switched over to flower farming. So I love that similarity that we both have there.
I love the little Venn diagram of hospitality. I didn't know
Yes.
that.
Yes, I didn't mention that earlier. So you are in Montana. What's it like in Montana right now?
Right now, I'm sitting in the shipping warehouse. I shipped the last box of fall bulb sale from the fall bulb sale. The weather is gloomy. I just want to be curled up on a couch with a cup of tea. Dahlias have been dug up. The farm has been put to sleep. The last bulbs went in the ground, and I think I'm ready for a break. And I'm excited to be here. And this is my last commitment, and then I can enjoy some time off.
That's amazing. I'm envious. I'm just now starting to dig my dahlias, so you have a great head start on me. How does
You
it feel
got
to be all
this.
done?
It feels great. I think it was an incredible season. It was a really beautiful summer season for weddings. The farm was probably like one of the best seasons we had for dahlias this year. Last year it wasn't so great, so this year felt really good to have them back again. And I've just kind of like closing the season with this like great sense of accomplishment. The fall bulb sale was so incredible, like the most amazing customers that I could possibly ask for. We sold out most of the things that I had, and whatever we didn't sell, I'm going to plan on planting. And I don't really have any complaints, really.
That's amazing. Well, you sound so happy. You're like exuding this happiness, and maybe it's because you do get to rest after this.
Yes, it is.
So, for those who don't know your full story and who are just hearing about you for the first time today, can you share how your flower business and floral business, the flower hat, came to life?
Yeah, of course. I wanted to say, first of all, thank you for having me. This is so fun. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited that we're doing this. I love that there is video. I love seeing who I'm talking to. So this is really fun. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Julio. It is not Julio. It is Julio Freitas. I am originally from Brazil. I do not speak any Spanish at all, but I do speak Portuguese, and that's why the pronunciation of the J is a hard J. I moved here. I attended college in Montana. I moved from Brazil to Montana. I attended college, and I was in this hospital. I finished college and then I needed an internship. And I got this job at this hotel, and I was a sales intern. Jen, I never had imagined that I was going to work at a hotel. It was never on my radar. I always thought that I was going to work at a bank and be a bank manager. And I was at that hotel for 7 years, and the need to do something creative was kind of really eating at me. And I loved the hospitality world. I loved what it taught me. It taught me so much about customer service, dealing with people, dealing with employees. The corporate world, there's quite a few things that I took away with me, like as far as running the business, that I applied to owning a small business. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I felt like I was going after being promoted and going up the ladder. And it just felt like I was going towards something that was just going to keep eating at me more and more. And it was just going to be more and more demanding. And I say this, and people are like, okay, whatever, don't say that. But I've never worked for money. And I felt like that's what I was doing. Like, I've always felt like I was working to produce something, I was working to help people, I was working to be beneficial to my community. I was working to leave a mark on this world, and the money just kind of followed that. And that has been my prerogative from the beginning. And I just didn't feel like the corporate world was for me anymore. And I was very thankful for the opportunity to work at that hotel. And I loved my owners. I loved the management company that I worked for. My employees were amazing. I just got bored. I just really felt like I wanted to explore my creativity more. Like, I have such a big background with teaching, and this is going to sound really silly, but I used to paint when I was a teenager. I used to paint fabric, which is a really big thing in Brazil. And I'm really going to, like, I have this big plan that I'm going to try to make it a thing here. And then I left all of that world behind when I moved to the US, and I went into college and then education for, college education and working at a corporate hotel. And like, I wanted to go back to what my roots were, which was really like working with my hands and creating beauty, if you will. And I I got into flowers. It's it was just so serendipitous. Like, and I never meant to get into flowers either, but it just kind of happened, and here I am.
I love that. Well, it's funny. We maybe have more coincidences. Am I saying that right?
Yeah,
Similarities.
sure. Yes.
I actually went from being a bank manager to working as a sales manager for a hotel while
I
I was
almost spilled
launching
my
my
water.
photography business.
I
So,
love that.
yes, because the banking was so black and white that I was
Yep.
craving that creativity. And then for a while, I got to build a whole sales. There was no sales team for the boutique hotel that I went to work for, so it was really fun building it. But then once there
Yeah.
was no more creativity and it was all automated, I was like, I need something else.
Yeah. I need the
So
challenge.
yes,
Yeah.
and I love that. I think that I can see the connection having worked in the industry. So many people that work in hospitality do so because they want to serve people, they want to create an experience. So I
Hmm.
imagine a lot of that has carried over into your floral business.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of like a hotel stay and I was front office manager, so I dealt with all the problems, with all the complaints, like that all came to me. And I started to realize that the guests would come, they would stay one night, and that was the only night they had. Yes, they would come back. We had some incredible regulars, as we call them, but that night, like we couldn't do that night again. If
Right.
they had a bad experience, yes, I can give them a free stay the next night, but recovering from that one night, like we tried to do really proactive work to make sure that every night was perfect. And I think in weddings is the same thing. We only get one chance. That bride is only going to walk down the aisle one time. We Yes, we can grow dahlias every season, but especially here, like our seasons are so short. So the more proactive I can be to make sure that those dahlias have the best chance of thriving on my farm, the more legwork that we do up front, the better chances of those flowers succeeding. So it kind of overlaps with the like the idea that you get this one chance. And it sounds really fleeting, but at the same time, it just kind of gives you an idea that if you try to think a little bit forward and if you try to think of the outcome that you're trying to have, you can do a lot of work up front to make sure that you have the result that you're looking for.
I love that. That's such great advice.
Yeah.
Okay, my mind is spinning with questions right now, but let's first transition from being in the hotel industry to switching over to a career in florals. What was the moment that you said, this is my calling, this is what I'm supposed to go do?
There was a moment, like there was a time. So the way I started doing flowers was I was still working at the hotel, and with the fact that I was a little bored, I started decorating the hotel. And I had a very small budget to decorate, but I would decorate for the seasons. I would do a floral arrangement on the big like entry table. I would do a seasonal arrangement on that table with silk flowers so they would last for the whole season. I started decorating the ballroom for Christmas. I started doing floral arrangements for the centerpieces for the ballroom when we had events. Like sometimes they wanted flowers on the tables and I would do them as like a side hustle, I guess. But it just started very organically. I had the confidence to say, I can do this. I can do the flowers for the hotel lobby because I was just really bored and I really wanted to explore being creative. So that confidence of just testing the waters, like starting really, really small in a very safe space, really allowed me to step forward and offer my services as a floral designer to a coffee shop that was in my neighborhood. And I remember walking in with all the confidence and thought, I can do this. So the first week that they opened, they had this really beautiful floral arrangement on the entry table. And I thought, this is just like a hotel. Like you walk in, there's this big floral arrangement to welcome you. So then I went back the following week. The flowers were not there. And I left. I got my coffee and I left. And then I got in my car and I thought, wait a minute. I'm doing this already. I can easily just do the same thing here, not realizing that I was doing silk flowers versus cut flowers, fresh flowers. So I walked back in and I asked for the owner, and I remember the cashier was really scared because I asked to speak with the owner and I had just left. And I said, no, everything is perfect. The coffee is great. I just wanted to speak about an opportunity. So I started doing flowers for that coffee shop, and it was a really eye-opening experience. And I think just going from the hotel to that was a good stepping stone, but it was already a really big stepping stone because again, I'm going from silk flowers to fresh flowers. But I did my absolute best to make sure that I was listening to what the arrangement was telling me every time. Every week that I went in to set it up, I was looking at the arrangement that I had set up the week before. So, like, what happened? Which flowers lasted the longest? Which flowers did not last? How are the water levels? Because that helped me pick the vases that would hold the most amount of water. It was a very small bakery, and they were open from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m., running ovens in a very small space. I remember I did one arrangement of dahlias that lasted literally half a day. They did
Oh
not like it
no.
in there. But that was the beginning of the, not the flower hat, but that was the beginning of my flower career. And I would have little business cards in front of the arrangement. Like, there was a little card holder, and I'll put 20 business cards in there every week. And every week that I went back to refresh the arrangement, I would count the cards to see how many cards went out the door. And most of the times it was like 10, 15 cards going out the door every week. And I started getting calls to do weddings, and I started getting calls to do local deliveries. And at that time, I said yes to everything because I needed to get the experience of what it was like running around town to deliver flowers. I needed to figure out weddings. So my first wedding was December 26th, 2013, I believe.
Oh wow.
It was
You've been
it
doing
was
this for
like
a while.
it's been 14 years. Yes. I started the coffee shop in 2011. And then the first wedding was a couple of years later in 2013. And it was just roses, but it was an incredible couple. And I still remember the bride. And then I did her sister's wedding a couple of years later. And they're so kind and so amazing humans. And anyway, so that propelled me to start looking at my business that wasn't even existing at that time, but it allowed me to explore different options. And I realized very quickly that I had to figure out how to make the deliveries work because that's what people are asking me to do. So I made it work, and it was hustling. When I say hustling, it means I had 1 hour lunch break, and I had to run to my house, pick up those flowers, go deliver them, and then come back to work.
Oh wow.
But hustling, I made no money because all I was doing was spending money on gas. But then I was trying to schedule sometimes deliveries after work where I could go home, pick up the flowers, and go deliver them. But all of that got me to where I am today because I needed my full time job to pay the bills because I needed both. I needed one to explore my creativity and start to see this as a business opportunity, but then I also needed the cushion of my full time job to help pay the bills until I got my way out of the corporate world. It was
I
a lot.
That's an amazing story. One thing really stood out to me that you just shared. You shared when you went to that first coffee shop, you walked in
Mhm.
with confidence. How did you develop that confidence? What inside of you? I think so many people like see an idea or an opportunity like that, but they freeze
Mhm.
because they're scared. How did you have that confidence?
I'll figure it out. That was what I thought.
That was your
I
mindset.
I I have such, this is going to sound so silly to say, but I will never let myself fail. And I will figure it out, and I will pivot, and I will change course, and I will figure this out because I'm smart enough to figure it out. But walking in and saying, "Hi, my name is Julio. I'm a floral designer." That's what I needed to say to her to sell the product. If I said, "I love working with flowers," like, that's a different, I love flowers, that's different. Like, but if I say I'm a floral designer, tells her I'm a professional and I would love to work with you. Depending on how you word it and how I was not a floral designer at that point. I was actually just really a flower lover trying to figure out how to make this work. But that confidence, walking into a room and believing in your own words, that was my future self talking to my past self, saying, "You're going to do this. So you might as well just own it now that you are the professional." And I said, "Okay, yeah, sure." But it's all in a split second.
I love that so much. The future self, like I'm big on personal development books. You don't know me very well yet, but I
I
devour
love
this
it.
kind of stuff. And that mindset of saying, instead of I can't do this, you're like, I'm going to embody that future self. And you literally created the
Hmm.
opportunity for yourself because you had that belief in yourself. I think that's really incredible. I think a lot of
Yeah,
people are so fearful that they are afraid to step into that future self. So I think that's amazing because look at all of the pathways. You didn't know how you were going to get to here, but that
right.
first step lets you figure out the next step.
Yeah, and
So
I think like just speaking more on that is like you are a dahlia grower. If you or I or anybody, but like if you had taken the time in the beginning to just research, like I want to research all the viruses, I want to research all the soil types, I want to research all the unicorn dahlias, I want to research hybridizing my own dahlias. You could spend years researching it, and you say, I don't think I'm ready yet because I have so much to learn. I'm here to tell you, you're never going to feel ready. If you're just going to wait for the perfect moment that one day you're going to wake up and say, I think I'm ready to be a flower farmer, you are going to learn so much just by putting the seed in the ground. And you're going to encounter so many, there's just so many singular scenarios that are going to happen to you and to you only about your soil, about your climate, about your business, about your market. No matter how much you research, you're still not going to be ready for all the things that are going to come your way. And you're just going to figure it out because we all have the ability to do it. And I think when you walk in to any endeavor and you say to yourself, I have no idea what I'm doing, but it's going to be fun and I'm going to figure it out when I have an obstacle. That's what's going to get you forward. But if you spend, I think there's definitely a time and a space to do your research to educate yourself, but just get yourself out there. It's going to be fine.
I love that. Just that little mantra for yourself of like the way you speak to yourself. This year, I started before I get out of bed. I think it was Mel Robbins that suggested this that before you ever step foot out of bed, you say, it's going to be a great day. So, like
Hmm.
the first thing now when I
Yeah.
wake up that goes through my mind is I say, today's going to be a great day. And then I climb
Yeah.
out of bed. No idea what's going to come out my
Yeah.
day, but I'm going to
Yeah.
approach it with the mindset that it's going to be a great day. And I love that
I'm,
because you did that same
yeah.
thing.
I'm currently working on her 5 second rule. It's a 5 second rule. You count to five and you just go and do it.
Oh, I
Yeah.
like that. I don't think I know
Yeah.
that one yet.
Oh, she's great. I love her.
Yes, she's
Yeah.
awesome. Then you said that you said yes to everything. It reminds me of last year. Well, actually, excuse me. Yeah, no, I'm so messed up on my dates. It's 2025. In 2024, when we were in transition before we found our new farm,
Hmm.
I this is when I really dove into personal development. I started reading a bunch of books. I read Shonda Rhimes' book, The Year of Yes.
I'm dying
And
to read that book.
it's so good. She said yes to everything. And it was like, okay, if you just start saying yes to these opportunities, it's that taking that next step of what you did. Like
Hmm.
one thing led to another to another. So I'm dying to know, how did you transition from silk flowers to saying yes to these living flowers to all of a sudden growing your own flowers? Take us along on your journey.
Oh gosh. Okay, so we know how the silk flowers happened. So then I moved. I did the bakery job for 5 years, I would say. And it was just such a fun job. The owner of the bakery said, if you're not having fun, don't do it. And I said, I'm having fun every week that I am here. And it was just so amazing to have somebody that trusted me. So shout out to Joni. Joni is amazing. She really just believed in me and in my ability to create these really beautiful floral arrangements. And every now and then, I would just kind of sit in the corner, like, because I obviously still went to the bakery, and I would just sit in the corner and see people's reaction when they walked in. Because what I was doing was not like a mixed bouquet in a vase. I was really inspired by the florists in London that were doing floral designs for the fancy hotels in London. When I found Ken Martin was the name of this florist. When I found his designs, I thought to myself, I found it. This is my thing. And I was so inspired by what he was doing. And I thought, I want to practice this. And then I started doing that. Somehow, whatever I was doing, it was like large number of vases. So it was a bit like maybe a 36-inch table. And I was putting so many vases on that table because my budget for flowers wasn't really big. but I was trying to stretch it as much as I could. So I remember very vividly one of the arrangements I made was just wine bottles that I got from the bakery because they sold wine and had events. I asked them to keep all the vases, all the bottles of wine for me, but I said they all have to be the same. I can't just have a mismatch because like there's a reason for it. Anyway, so I just put one stem of Ostromeria in each vase, but like I crossed them in like at a middle point, and I just created this lattice with Ostromerias that are fairly inexpensive, but it created such a visual when they were all fully open, and it lasted a whole week. And people weren't seeing that. People weren't exposed to that kind of floral design at the time. So like it really, I'm not gonna say set me apart. I was just trying to do something different than every other florist was doing. But then I moved. I moved to Bozeman, where I am now. So all of this happened in Billings, which is 2 hours east of
Okay.
here. And then I moved here to Bozeman with my ex partner, and I I started just doing weddings, and I started getting a lot of inspiration images. This is around like 2016 now, 2017, probably 2016 actually. I started getting a lot of inspiration images of really delicate flowers, really delicate arrangements. And like thinking Ariella Shazar, Siren Floral, Sarah Winward, Heart Floral, all of these like really intricate designs that weren't a rose stock hydrangeas. And I would send those photos back to my wholesaler and I would say, what can you source from this? And then he would say something like, I don't know about these little tiny flowers, but I can give you some spray carnations. I cannot give you these really big zinnias, but I can give you some gerb daisies. And I kept thinking, that's so far from what I'm trying to do here because I really thought that the arrangements were really beautiful. And I just didn't have a source for those flowers. So 20, probably 15 maybe, is when I learned that you could grow your own flowers. And I thought, well, there's nothing I can grow here. I'm in Montana, nothing will grow here. But then the same thing, I thought, I'm going to get to it. There's a little tiny rocky plot in the back of the studio. I thought, I'm just going to put some things in the ground and it's going to work out. And if it doesn't work out, I'll try to figure out why it didn't work out and I'll move on from there. So that first year, I grew dahlias, anemones, and zinnias, not knowing that you don't grow anemones and dahlias and zinnias in the same. But I didn't know, and I was just trying to figure it all out. And they all grew. They all grew fine. They all grew great. And I mean, as great as great could be, considering that I had no idea about soil preparation, watering, fertilizing. I knew none of that. And that's when I started diving into the local flowers because that's what I realized. All those florists had access to farms that were around them. And that's where they were getting their flowers. And I thought the same thing that I thought about the floral design job for the bakery. I thought I can be a flower farmer. I'm going to be a flower farmer. I can grow my own flowers. So I started with a little tiny plot, and then I moved to raised beds, and then I moved to a bigger field, and then I leased land for 2 years to expand the production, and it just kept growing. And I think that's when the flower hat became what I am known for today, which is basically importing flowers that are really beautiful and really special, and complementing those flowers with the local flowers that I grow. And now there is such a network of flower farmers around me. Not only can I grow my own flowers and support my own business, I can also support their businesses as well because this community is amazing and we're so connected, and we have the ability to, at least the growers that I communicate with, I kind of have the ability to talk to them and say, what are you growing this season? What can I expect from your price list this year? And then I go in an entirely different direction and I grow something that's really unique, really different, that they are not growing, so I can have both, the best of both worlds. Because if we're all growing the same things, if we're all growing the same snapdragons, if we're all growing the same zinnias, then the market is too saturated and we just don't have enough room to move all these flowers. And I just wanted to grow the interesting stuff. I just wanted to grow the really textural pods and grasses, the really intricate colors of scabiosas, perennials like that are not necessarily popular, but they make for really great cut flowers for events because they only need to last, I don't know, 2 days, 3 days. the short flowers that don't necessarily sell as cut flowers because the stems are too short. But I also don't care because I'm tucking them into centerpieces. So stem length has never been an issue for me. That's why I love pansies, because they're not really tall, but I also don't care because they're going to make really cute bud vases. So like I started really focusing on what I was trying to create and work it backwards from there to see how I what I could grow based on the seeds that were available. And I think it's been a really fun experience to see, like there's nothing, I don't know. I feel like it's Christmas every day. Like when you receive this really big shipment of flowers from Holland. I love ordering from Holland. I think they have some amazing product. It truly doesn't compare to local flowers when you have a bunch of Lysianthus from some of the best growers in Holland versus a bunch of Lysianthus from the local growers. They don't even compare. Like by far, the local market has always had better quality, better product, better colors. But in the winter, when I can't grow anything, and sometimes I just need too much volume. I need 5,000 stems of Playa Blanca roses. I need to order those from somewhere. But then coordinating that with what I can grow from the farm, like right now I'm about to start going to crop planning. I can start looking into the weddings that I have. I already know what I can order from anywhere in the world. That part is not a problem. But once I start planning the farm, then I can start manipulating what my recipes are going to look like to make sure that I am including flowers from the farm. Dahlias, for example, you order dahlias from a wholesaler, they're not the best. And you don't know when they were cut. And then the day before the wedding, they just shed all over. And you're like, well, that was my focal flower. There it goes. Where I can go to the farm and I can cut them today and use them tomorrow in my arrangement. They're going to be absolutely beautiful. So it's a balancing game to figure out what I can grow in this climate versus what I want to grow because it's really beautiful and goes with my design versus what I can order in versus what I can support local flower farmers with.
So that's really amazing. I love how you explained everything, especially how you work everything backwards instead of saying,
Hmm.
I want to grow this and I'm going to figure out how to use it all together. You have a recipe and you figure out what's missing based on what you can get outside,
Hmm.
whether that's from other local farmers or the wholesale. And then you figure out, okay, this is what I want to grow, or this is what I need to grow. I loved the part though that now you are able to grow what brings you joy and what excites you, those little grasses and textural pieces, because you can source everything else and you've
Hmm.
done the homework and you've done the steps and you have such a great system. You now have the fun part of just growing what brings you joy. Is that right?
Yeah, and I will always say my favorite flower to grow is Sanguisorba. No one really knows what it is. It's a weird name. It doesn't have a common name. I think you can call it Great Burnet, but I don't think that that's the same. But I love Sanguisorba. I have such a history with it. It blooms on my birthday every year, which is July 1st. It was gifted to me from a dear friend, Jen, also Jen from Field Day Creative. I love that flower, but it's really hard to find. For sure, I cannot find it at any of my local wholesalers, but I just love growing it. And I think a lot of people have loved it that I've showed it to them. They're like, what is this? It's a really fun, it's really fun to walk out on a farm, at least to me, when I see the flowers that I grow, and they're not big blooms. I don't really have peonies, for example. Like I don't grow peonies. I have very short. I only have 1 acre to grow on, and I'm just trying to switch a lot of that towards a lot of fillers, a lot of foliages. Dahlias is probably like 40% of it. So it's just really interesting to see what my capabilities are within this 1 acre. But the feeling of walking out in a field and seeing like, ooh, I have phlox today, I have feather top grass, I have bunny tail grass, I have oregano, all these things that are not really popular. No one really likes them, but they make the arrangement so special. Like up here, for example, a lot of destination weddings happen here. So there's such a need for what they would consider wildflowers for rehearsal dinners, for example. The rehearsal dinners here are usually very casual. It's usually a barbecue and a kind of Western. So for that, I like to have flowers from the farm that are grasses, pods, a lot of larkspur, a lot of snapdragons, a lot of like colorful, bright, but at the same time, I have a wedding the following day that needs to be really lush and really beautiful. So I really want to have dahlias for that. I want to have really specialty foliages like raspberries and blackberries and nine barks. I don't know. It's just really fun to be able to see your calendar for the following year's event and be able to plan your garden based on that.
So you are probably just about to start planning for 2026.
Yes.
How many weddings are you doing next year?
I haven't counted yet, but it's full. The calendar is full. I think I only have one weekend that's available, and I think I want to close that weekend off and not take on any weddings. But yeah, it's looking pretty busy.
That's fantastic. So when does your season start?
Okay, so that's a great question because I always have freelancers come help me. And it's kind of funny because a lot of them are in the South or East Coast, and they have a very slow summer because it's so hot. People don't get married outside in the summer. But here, our season starts in June, and it really picks up in like the last weekend in June, until probably the first weekend in September after Labor Day weekend. That late June, July, and August are insanely busy, and then a little bit in September, and then after that, you kind of run the risk of having snow in your wedding. Could happen.
Snow in September?
Yes, it could
Oh my
happen.
gosh.
It has happened before. We've had a frost on 4th of July one year.
No. Oh, wow.
That was the year that I bent myself enough hoops for 20 flower beds, and you know how those low tunnels can get out of hand so quickly. So it was like 20 beds times 14 hoops per bed. I bent every single one of them by myself like a madman trying to cover them all. But we saved them. But we did get a frost on 4th of July one year.
Oh, that's amazing that you were able to save
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
I
fun. Not
I
really.
wholesale flowers for weddings, and we don't take weddings after or anything. We don't commit to anything after the first weekend of October because that's usually about when our
Mm,
frost comes. But this year it's crazy. I mean, I still have flowers, but they've been kissed by light frost enough that there's nothing sellable in the
yeah.
field at this point. But normally my field is totally brown, and I'm like, there's still green left this year. I'm ready to put it to bed.
Yes. Some years you really just want a frost to come and do its thing so you can rest. But some years they drag. Um, last year was probably the latest frost we had. I remember harvesting dahlias around the 17th of October last year, and we still had dahlias. This year it was much earlier.
We had a really
Yeah.
early frost on, I think it was October 4th, and it didn't damage the plants enough, so I got more buds after that, but I should
Uh-huh.
have just put everything to sleep because October was beautiful this year. It was dry every day and sunny, and now November has hit and it's like an inch of rain a day, which we never
Oh
normally
my
get. We get rain,
gosh.
but not like this. And our
Right.
new soil is just like become clay. I'm going, what was I
Oh
thinking? This is
no.
my poor planning of trying to enjoy them for too long.
Yeah, I have promised myself that I will not do the sprinkler system ever again. I just learned to let it go. I think that was one of the biggest lessons I've learned in flower farming is sometimes you just have to let things go. Life is too short. Just let them go. I have tried to save. I have done some crazy things to try to save dahlias from frost, and eventually, you just learn. I'll see you next year.
I think that video made you famous when you did that on Instagram a few years ago. And for people who are listening who are going, what are you guys talking about? Do you want to explain what you're referencing here? What did you
the
do
the
that
the
year?
sprinkler method.
Yeah.
So I learned this from like going to conferences that you can set up sprinklers and you run your sprinkler about like 1 to 2 hours before a frost hits, which is usually like that first hour in the morning, like around 5 or 6 or 7 a.m. So you have to get up in the middle of the night and you have to turn these sprinklers on. So the sprinkler sprays water on all your plants. And like the field is fairly big, and there wasn't enough pressure to have all the sprinklers running at the same time. So like I'm trying to rotate them in the middle of the night. And in the middle of the night, literally mean like 3 in the morning, I'm out there like trying to rotate which one gets watered now. And the idea is that the water the plants are drenched in water, and then as the frost arrives, it freezes the water outside the plant, and it protects the plant inside the ice, which works. It works great. That's usually what they do in vineyards. If sometimes they have really big fans, like you guys have vineyards around you, they usually have like a really big fan, or they do a misting system. Well, I didn't have a misting system. I just had a sprinkler. The problem is there's too much water, so the plants get really heavy, and in the process of the ice freezing, the plants get too heavy for themselves, and then they fall over. So you wake up the next morning, plants are fine, but they are all over the ground. And then usually that happens like when you have that one fateful night that has a frost, and then the weather is clear after that. Then the plants start to grow again, and then all the plants that fell, they start growing. The stems start going towards the light, so you get these really wonky stems. The flowers are all over your pathways. Everything is wet. It's muddy all the time. It is just such a nightmare. And it's, yes, you can find a corralling system, and yes, you can find a way to support your flowers, and I think that would be really helpful. It's just that the scale, like we produce 6,100 plants every year. At that scale, it was just too much for us to do and manage. And after that, I think I did that for 2 or 3 years in a row, and then after the last time, I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore.
That sounds
But
like
it's a
so much
very,
work.
yeah, it's a very interesting technique that does work. You just have to be more prepared for it than I probably was.
I love what you first said when you told us about that, though, is that and I'm not going to say it exactly like you, but sometimes we try so hard to work Mother Nature and to get a different outcome than what nature
Hmm.
is trying to give us. And I love
Yes.
how you said that sometimes we just have to be willing to let things go.
Yeah. And you know why? I think I was listening to Amy Poehler's podcast, and she said something like, "It's so easy for our brains. You can have 1,000 positive things happen, but it's so easy for that one negative thing to just stick in your brain." And the thoughts of failure that come with that, thinking, bringing this back to farming, like all the crops that you failed at. I failed at growing zinnias because I had a disease or an issue, or the deer came in and ate it, or all my dahlias have so many viruses in them. I don't know what to do. I failed with soil prep, and like now, like you said, like all I have is clay, and I don't know what I'm doing. But you turn around, and there are so many other flowers that are screaming, asking for your attention, saying, "Look at us, we're thriving over here. You barely put any effort into growing us." Like yarrow, for example. Yarrow is amazing. We have such a hard time celebrating those flowers that are so easy to grow, incredibly helpful when it comes to design, because we're so focused on the one thing that failed, and we sometimes we have such a hard time letting go. And that's what I'm saying, like I had to learn to let go, and I had to learn to embrace all the other things that do really well here, considering that the climate is really challenging. The season is so short. I eventually learned that if it was something that required too much attention, too much effort, for example, celosia, for example, I would love to grow celosia. I love celosia. I think it's an amazing flower. It's always a talking point because everyone says it looks like a brain. I would love to grow celosia. I can't. It requires too much. I have to put hoops over it. I have to net it. It's one bloom per stem. It's one bloom per flower. Uh, just let it go. You know, it grows really well here. Like I said, ERO grows really well. Scabiosas do really well. Echinops grows incredibly well here. And yeah, it's not a flashy flower, but you know what's really helpful? To have Echinops when I'm doing a wildflower wedding. Everyone loves a thistle. Great, then you can have thistle. I have thistle all day, every day during the summer. I have tried really hard to incorporate this into like other aspects of my life too when something is not really going right, because there's just so much to be celebrated. And it's just, we just have, as humans, we just have a tendency to be so hard on ourselves. And I think it's just turn to the left. You're going to see something that's really incredible and really beautiful, and just celebrate that, because it's a muscle that you need to exercise. And I think the more that you let go of these flowers and crops, and we can even talk about weddings, like wedding models that are not necessarily working for your business. There is one that is going to work for your business. You just have to be willing to see it. It's right there. You just have to be willing to see it. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes, we do have a tendency to be hard on ourselves. But I think just having awareness about it and making yourself in that moment and realizing that you're doing it really gets you out of that like negative mindset.
I love that mindset, especially this time of year where nature is such a
Mhm.
good reminder that, I mean,
Yes.
I don't know about you, but here in the gorge right now, in the Columbia River Gorge where I live, our new property, our farm, come visit us sometime when your season
I
ends
would
because
love to.
October
Yes.
is incredible here. We back up to the Hood River, which flows into the Columbia River. And then it comes up, and there's this swooping hillside, and there's orchards on the hillside, and then all of these oak trees. So it's like nature's
Oh my gosh.
tapestry of like
Yeah.
every fall color you can imagine. And they're now starting to drop their leaves. And the property next to us is a regenerative cow and pig farm. But before
Oh my
them,
god.
it was a organic ornamental nursery. So there's like
Yeah.
aspen trees and all kinds of trees planted all over the property. So I mean, it's like one of the most beautiful vistas you can see in all of the gorge. In my opinion, when I look out, I'm just like, look at all these leaves, like this show that nature is
Yeah.
putting on before it lets go and rest for the season. So I'm
Oh, you're
curious.
so lucky. I'm so happy for you that you have that.
Thank you. I feel really blessed. And I love what you just said there because I'm on a new farm this year. I
Hmm.
have always struggled this summer, and I've had to remind myself. I look at it as like I'm flipping this coin. Like, do I want to see the positive, or am I going to dwell on that like one thing that's not
Yeah.
working out? Because with a new farm, after 6 years of farming on another area, we had it so dialed in, but
Hmm.
not, but now we're starting over from a fallow field. And it's like, okay, some things that I had so easy at the last place are a huge struggle this year because there's so many unknowns. And it's like it's so easy to dwell on like, oh, I lost that crop. But then it's like, oh my gosh, look at how the zinnias are taller and bigger than I've
Hmm.
ever had before. And look at all the birds that are tucked in them. And it's like, okay, if I just switch that mindset, how
Hmm.
such a difference it can make on your mind and your health and your day. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I am curious
Yeah, of
though,
course.
has there
Okay.
ever been a time in your floral career that you've had a hard time letting go of something that you knew you shouldn't continue doing?
Yes. I mean, I think I'm living in it right now, to be honest. I think I love doing weddings, and I love the product, and I love the freelancers. Can't do it without my freelancers. I love my clients. I have never had a negative experience with a wedding, and I I just love doing weddings. I love the product that it creates, and I love getting that gallery from the photographer. And when you do like these really big productions, like we have done six-figure weddings, like multiple six-figure weddings, and when you look back and you think, I think I was a poor kid growing up in Brazil, like in a third world country. Sometimes I'm like, I don't belong doing this, but I do it and I love it. And I love getting the photos. And when you think of like how hard that week was, and you work with these incredible photographers, like you guys are amazing and we can't do it without you. And you look back on those photos and you think, wow, I really did that. I designed that. I ordered those flowers. I got in that bride's mind to see what she was seeing. I planned this for a year, and here it is. Except that it's not sustainable to do that forever. I think that's what I'm living now. I love doing weddings, but what the wedding industry has become, and with Pinterest showing you what you have to have in your wedding, it has just become such like, I need to top the last wedding. It's not sustainable. And when you start realizing where your joy is coming from, it becomes, it puts it through different perspective. This is very personal. I've never shared this with anyone ever, ever, ever. But I went to my energy healer one time, and she said, "You seem very stressed." And I said, "I don't know why I'm here today." So we did a session. This is very woo woo. So if you don't believe in any of this,
Oh,
like,
I'm here
that's
for it.
totally fine. But the listeners are like, "Oh my God, what is he about to say?" But I remember we were doing a guided meditation because I was so distressed. I didn't even know what to ask. And she said, "What if we just do a guided meditation?" And I said, "Okay." And I was just there, and she guided me through the meditation of it all. And then all of a sudden, I'm in my flower field. And she says, "What do you see? Like, what is happening?" And I said, "It is so loud. It is so incredibly loud." She's like, "What's loud?" And I said, "All these plants are screaming at me." And I said, "Why are they screaming?" I said, "Because they are screaming because I'm not there." Like, with the wedding industry grow, not the wedding, though our wedding business growing as much as it is, there's obviously no way that I can do all of it by myself. So I have, we have the farm department and we have the design department. So during the summer, most of my time is dedicated to weddings. Like, we try to do a really good job setting up the farm in the spring so we don't have to be out there as much in the summer. So it's more maintenance. But the plants were just screaming at me, and they're saying, "You bought this land, you invested money in this, you put so much sweat and tears into this property, and you don't even spend time with us. Where are you? We miss you." And it was just such an aha moment for me to understand, what am I even doing with weddings? Like, the joy, my joy comes from being out on the farm. Like, my dad used to grow, like, my dad, you could go to his garden at any point. There was always something that needed to be harvested. There's always something to eat. There's always something to be harvested. There's always something thriving. And side note, I'm sure my dad had his own insecurities about his garden and all the failures that he had. But I just remember walking out there with, as a kid, and I said, I can just eat the kale leaf right out of the plant. And I think, when I'm starting to think about, like, I just turned 40 this year, when I start to rethink, like, okay, what are some of the things that I can let go of, some things that I want to do anymore, some things that I would love to do more of. Like, education really speaks to me. Being a part of a flower community really speaks to me. I was teaching when I was 14. I was teaching English to kids that were younger than me, and I did that until I was 21. And I love that feeling of sharing. Like, we have so much knowledge within ourselves. There is no point in having all of this in our brain and not passing it on to somebody else or next generation or whoever you want to call it. There's something that we can all learn from each other. There's something that you can teach. And I think when I start thinking about business models and how the business is going to change, and I'm not telling you that I'm going to stop doing weddings, I'm just thinking more and more, where am I going? Where am I taking this business? How am I having a much bigger impact with flowers in this business? Because the flowers are going to be it. Like, they're always going to be here, and it's always my message is always going to be through flowers. It's just understanding how sustainable can I make it, because farming is also really hard. I'm not here to say growing flowers is easy. It's not. We all know this. If you've grown anything, you know that there's a lot of sweat and tears that go into that as well. But I'm just thinking more and more, I'm grounded in the farm. I'm grounded in education. It makes me the happiest. It makes me feel like I'm contributing something to this community that has so positively welcomed me when I started. And I'm thinking about giving back. I think that's where I give back. And the weddings have taught me a lot. The weddings have taught me that, like, the relationship between a farmer and a florist. The weddings have taught me communication between a client and the florist. And, like, there's so many lessons there that if you want to do a $200,000 wedding, I can teach you how to do that. If you want to do a $200 wedding, I can also teach you how to do that. I have that experience, and I'd love to share that with people. And you can tailor that to whatever model you want to follow or whatever market you're in. But I think the farm is really like my happy spot. Is being out there is really fun. Being out there really brings me joy and a sense of achievement that I've done something. You always also have to work on your patience because nothing happens overnight. but there's ways to do that, and I just think that if I'm thinking like long term, there's definitely a very special place for education and farming in my life. That was a very
I-
long answer.
No, I feel so honored that you shared that with us. Thank you for your honesty and for opening up like that. I think
Hmm.
that's so relatable for so many people, especially this time of year. As we've worked so hard, you have hustled through so many weddings and caring for
Hmm.
such a big business. And you just finished shipping, I'm sure, hundreds of thousands of bulbs across the
Yes.
country. You showed me when you spun your computer around all the crates behind you, empty crates.
Yeah.
So your body is in this tired phase that's ready to go and hopefully reflect. I love how we get to be so tuned in to nature and I think to ourselves because we're so connected to nature that
Hmm.
we process things differently than everyone else maybe. Like some people will be like that's so such a complex topic and I'm like, "Really?" And I'm like, "It's just like planting the seed." And I think it's because we get so many metaphors in what we do. But I what I love about this time of year is that the earth and nature gives us permission to rest and to
Yes.
reflect and to
Hmm.
tend and to nourish. And I'm so curious as you're going into this next season of the rhythms of nature. It sounds like you have a lot to reflect on right now.
Yes.
And you're an amazing speaker the way you share from your heart that I hope you do follow some of that education because I have learned so much from you over the years watching you, listening to you on different podcasts,
Mhm.
that you have such a gift and you have touched so many lives in the floral industry. So this has been so fun talking with you. I'm looking at the clock going, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I
How
just
has
started
it been?
talking."
55 minutes.
Yes, I'm like, I feel like I just started talking to you 5 minutes ago, and I could talk to and ask you so many more questions, but I know our listeners, are probably going, "Okay, when are they gonna wrap up?" And
Yep.
you're probably like, "It's getting late your time because this is the end of the day that we're recording." So I'm gonna try and wrap this up, even though I have so many more questions, but what I would love to ask you is, we've talked about a lot today, but is there anything I haven't asked you today that you would like to share with our listeners?
Okay, first of all, I'd like the opportunity to sympathize with our flower farmers in the South who don't get snow and may not get a break because they are working on their hardy annuals right now, getting them in the ground and
That's
tending to
true.
them through the winter. So my heart goes out to you. We have terrible winters here, and they are cold and they're very snowy, and we don't have snow days, but that's our reality here. um a question you haven't asked me. I think this has been such an amazing interview. I mean, I just have to say that, like, it really brings me a lot of joy when uh, I mean, I've been asked to do like so many interviews and podcasts, and it just feels so nice to talk to somebody that knows about the flower hat, because like I appreciate the time that you put into research. So I hope that this has also been helpful to you. So I just wanted to say thank you for being such an incredible podcast host, and
Thank you.
I've just loved our time together. But I wanted to say, if anybody has had a tough year as well, and I know like we're looking at this, like at least for me, like I'm looking at this next phase as like, oh, now I'm gonna rest. And like resting really just means that I have time to sit down, recenter, because I'm embarking on another journey to do it all over again next year. But I was talking about I was doing an Instagram live not too long ago, and I said I need to go on an eat, pray, love journey. I'm gonna close the business all of November and potentially like the first few days of December. I need to go somewhere. I need to get away. I need to go, like, just be with myself. And then as November approached more and more, that's like that sense of like escapism just like went away. And it was replaced with this feeling of, no, there are so many projects that you've always wanted to work on that are going to bring me so much joy. I had this weird time with my business that I fell out of love with my business, and I thought, what am I doing? I left corporate to start a job that I love, and I'm my own boss. And why am I making this job so miserable for myself? We go through those phases, especially in the summer, like when you're in the thick of it. Like the farm is flourishing, the weddings are happening. There's like 5 freelancers arriving every week. When you're in the thick of it, it's so really hard to be down on yourself. And then as November approached, like I was saying, it just felt right to stay here. Like I as I'm shipping, every time I come here, I have to do something for somebody else. I have to do an arrangement for a client. I have to do a wedding for a bride. I have to ship bulbs for my incredible customers. I've never, I would say, in the last, including employees are also your customers. I have not had this time for myself in my business. I'm going to say probably since I hired my first employee, which was 2017, maybe 2018. It feels right. It feels good to just be here by myself. I can paint the walls. I can clean the bathroom. I can like just do like the most trivial tasks that I've been meaning to do for a long time. I promise you, I have not been looking forward to cleaning the toilet. We actually have a cleaning company that does that, but I'm just saying, if I want to do it, I can, because I'm not going to work for anybody else this time. And sometimes that's what you need. You need to focus on yourself. And I always tell when I host workshops here, I always tell my students, never, once you know that you want to be a designer, you want to hone in those skills, never wait for a paying client to practice. And I think in the beginning, you kind of have to do it. Like that's what I did, right? When I said I was hustling, I was just putting things together and delivering to get them out the door, to make the money, to get the experience. But when you really focus on what is my style? What kind of floral arrangement do I want to make? What kind of farm do I want to have? If you want to even talk about farming, practice during these times. Take time for yourself. Like I always say, you never see the players tuning their violin during the concert. That doesn't happen up on the stage. A wedding is the same thing. A floral arrangement is the same thing. You really just need to carve out time where yes, you spend the money and you go to the grocery store if that's all you have access to in the winter. Go buy the flowers. Don't worry about the flowers themselves, but worry about the technique, worry about the mechanics, get that down. And then you start worrying about color palette. And then you can become more and more focused on that. But you're doing that on your own time. You're doing that for yourself. You're not doing that for somebody else. When somebody pays you for a job, the expectations are so high. And I think that sometimes is where the confidence is shaken up a little bit, because all you have is pressure. You just have pressure to deliver a really beautiful arrangement. But you never practiced to make that arrangement before. And now is showtime. And you're like, I don't know if I can do this. You wouldn't feel that way if you had taken the time to say, I'm going to create an arrangement today that is bright red and bright yellow. And I am going to make it look good. And you're going to do it because one day somebody's going to ask you for that arrangement, and you're going to deliver ketchup and mustard, and you're going to say, what is this? Taking time for yourself to dedicate to the craft that you're trying to produce to the world is going to be really beneficial, not just for your confidence, but for your creative self. You're just going to feel so much better about the product that you're delivering if only you take time to practice. I Here now it's stick season. I love going out there during stick season, and for those of you who don't know, stick season is there are no leaves on the plants anymore. All the leaves have fallen. You just kind of have some sticks here and there in the garden. There's some evergreens that are holding on. Just go cut those. Don't worry about how ugly they look. You're making a seasonal arrangement and you're in the season of sticks. Create a really beautiful arrangement of different types of sticks. Pick, I don't know, 5, 6 different types of plants that produce different textures and different colors. Practice that and understand what the plants are trying to tell you. Connect with your arrangement. We just tend to do that so automatically during an event or during a wedding that we were just trying to deliver a really beautiful product, but you just can't if you're not practicing, if you're not taking the time to dedicate to it. So that's my message.
That is amazing advice. I love that so much, and this time of year is the perfect time to do that.
Yes.
We're recording this episode in November, and it's gonna air to our listeners just shortly after. One thing I love about November is that it's a month of gratitude. So I want
Hmm.
to ask you, what is something you are grateful for this month?
I am grateful for the network that is around me. The flower hat doesn't exist without, I'm naming all of them again, the customers that buy the bulbs, the brides that hire me and trust me with their wedding design for that one day, the 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 vendor network around weddings that go from the caterers, the photographers that I, really drive with my style, the planners, the venues, all of those people around me that really come together to create a really beautiful product. The podcasters that interview me to spread the message about what local flowers are and how easily accessible they can be. You just have to, get away from going to the grocery store to find them. The the community of flower farmers that are connected through social media now, between Facebook, Instagram, throw TikTok in there. The associations of flower farmers that are now connecting more and more people together so they can share experiences, share failures, share successes. There's so many people that I send a text to and I say, "What did you say that one time about that seed that you found on that trip that we were?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, it's this one." That network around you is really what makes your business successful, and that's where my gratitude is. Even locally speaking, I'm connected to flower farmers here that make my business successful. There's a whole community around me that supports what this vision that I have for this business, and I'm so thankful to each one of them for being part of. Flowers brought us all together, and it's so weird to say that because like it wasn't so long ago that local flowers were not necessarily a thing, and it's just so beautiful that something so magical and so mesmerizing was able to like connect so many people together, especially like in the last, I'm going to say, like 10 years. My gratitude goes to my network around me, and yeah, flowers are pretty powerful.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Julio. I'm grateful for you being here today and for sharing so much wisdom and speaking from the heart. I mean, you can tell just how authentically you live, and it's really beautiful. And you are adding so much to this floral community, and we're so lucky to have you be a part of it. So I hope that this is a restful season for you and that you get some of that clarity for that future direction and figure out where you're going to add in some of those educational components for us as well. We'll be excited to hear. And maybe when that time comes, you can come back on the podcast and share an update with us.
Perfect. I would love that. Thank you so much for having me. Keep doing what you're doing. This is incredible. We need you. And
Thank you.
I appreciate you having me. And I just truly cannot believe time has gone by so fast.
So fast. The last
Yeah.
thing I promise before we say goodbye is, how can our listeners best connect with you?
You can find me on social media, The Flower Hat, on Instagram, Facebook. I have a Facebook group called The Flower Hat Exchange. Can I be honest now? I didn't
Absolutely.
realize that many people were on Facebook anymore. And I created the Flower Hat Exchange so we could exchange ideas about flower farming and floral design. And I didn't realize that there were that many people in that group. And I just kind of disappeared. And I was like, well, no one is using Facebook anymore. Oh my goodness, so many people are on Facebook. So I'm definitely bringing that group back as a lively discussion. So you can find it on Facebook. And again, it's the Flower Hat Exchange, but I'm the Flower Hat on all social media platforms.
Perfect. And that's your website as well.
Theflowerhat.com, yes.
Well, we will include show links to all of those ways so people can connect with you and continue following your journey. Julio, from the bottom of my heart, thanks for being here and have a restful season. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Jen. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you, flower friends, for joining us on another episode of The Backyard Bouquet.
I hope you've enjoyed the inspiring stories and valuable gardening insights we've shared today. Whether you're cultivating your own backyard blooms or supporting your local flower farmer, you're contributing to the local flower movement, and we're so happy to have you growing with us. If you'd like to stay connected and continue this blossoming journey with local flowers, don't forget to subscribe to the Backyard Bouquet podcast. I'd be so grateful if you would take a moment to leave us a review of this episode. And finally, please share this episode with your garden friends. Until next time, keep growing, keep blooming, and remember that every bouquet starts right here in the backyard.